Hello and welcome to the 616. I'm Gregor Sprague, and this over here is my buddy Corey Scott.
You were your own buddy for a second.
I was. Because I, like Rod Burgundy, will read anything you type on a teleprompter. And we collectively are the ElseNerds. The 616 is our show about comics, comic news, and whatever else that it spills over into. Be it pamphlets, collections, ongoing, or OGNs. I don't know what OGNs are. Fill me in on that, please.
OGNs are original graphic novels.
Oh, that's what I thought. Minis, ash cans, newspaper strips, or digital. If it's a comic, we're interested. See, Ron Burgundy, I read the freaking teleprompter.
Yeah, and I'm Wordy's cuss, so I of course give you some great stuff to kind of stumble over. That's what I do. I write copy.
Yeah. So our first segment.
Nerds.
So I am, of course, of course, our first segment, that's what I was going to try to say, is the splash page. And Corey, you have our first story.
Yeah, so our first big story this week, we're gonna have to accept the fact that, like how a lot of tech news, computer shows and stuff are not about computers anymore, they're about cell phones and tablets. Likewise, when it comes to comic news, a lot of comic news isn't about comics so much as comics breaking out and other things. And you're going to see that in some of our big stories this week. But the first big story is from hitflix.com. And this has been a little bit of a controversy, and certainly everybody's got opinions on it, so you're going to have to hear ours. So Hitflix wrote a story talking about that they've seen evidence of a mandate at Warner Brothers to have absolutely no jokes in their upcoming line of superhero movies, starting presumably with Superman v. Batman, Dawn of Justice, going through the presumed but unannounced Wonder Woman film, a Justice League film, the Shazam film, which is starring The Rock, is either or of the Captain Marvel character.
I believe it's confirmed he is Shazam.
Is it really? Okay, so that's...
I believe I've heard that he is playing Shazam. And I've read through this, and the article is written by Drew McWeeny. And this is a long article. I read this because you started typing it out, and this is... I see why they're doing this, but at the same time, and in there they talk about, you know, how Drew McWeeny talks about how Green Lantern, it sort of didn't find its niche. They sort of compare Green Lantern with Guardians of the Galaxy, where I'm still that one dude who has not seen Green Lantern. I'm sorry, I'm poor, I don't have the money, I don't want to rip it or download it illegally.
Green Lantern or Guardians?
I haven't seen both. I've seen most of Green Lantern, but and it's played on like FX and TNT and all these other ones. But I'm like, there's other stuff on.
I think Green Lantern could do nothing but benefit for if you actually bothered to download it illegally. I think you would probably get a thank you note from Warner Brothers, like, "Oh my God, thank you, you watched the movie."
Yeah.
At least their sponsors got some play out of that.
Yeah, but Guardians, it's one of those things, like, I do want to go into the theaters and see it and stuff like that. But they compare the two, you know, with the fact that here both of them do have comedic moments, do have action moments, do have dramatic moments, and all this stuff. But the difference is the timing. Guardians, well timed. You know, you have, much like in the comics, there is this well-timed moments between them, you know. But with Green Lantern, it never found its place.
I'm going to argue a couple of things on this. One is that I don't know that Green Lantern did any of those things, because all I can remember from it, much like the article states, is Green Lantern fighting what was essentially a giant poop monster in space with a lot of mouths. I cannot remember a single thing in Green Lantern that I found funny, and I am not a Ryan Reynolds hater. I like Ryan Reynolds quite a bit. I've liked him going back to Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. I liked him in Van
Yep.
Wilder. He was good as Wade Wilson until they shut him up in the X-Men Origins Wolverine thing. In fact,
Which is stupid.
he was the only really essentially good thing about that film. I kind of like the Blob moments too. But he was really about it in that film that was any good, and then they just sort of tried to destroy the character. I think to downplay how much people would like him over Wolverine. You can't have a Wolverine origin movie and then have Deadpool be the favorite character out of it. But
So don't put Deadpool in the movie. I'm
so don't
sorry.
put
I'm
Deadpool
sorry.
in the movie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, or certainly don't make him the antagonist. Be that as it may, I just didn't think Green Lantern was a good movie. I
No,
don't
it
think
wasn't.
that it was well defined.
what
I
I've
think
seen.
they chose a very poor way to introduce the character because we get so much stuff that isn't grounded on Earth at all, but they still have it take place on Earth, that it just feels too big, and you can't suspend disbelief for all the stuff that's happening. You know, he gets a magic ring. He instantly shoots up into space to find a bunch of aliens that train him very quickly. He goes back to Earth. He's supposed to get the ring working off of willpower, but he's just so wishy-washy through the whole thing. Then giant this guy who's just kind of like stalkerish and weird, his head gets all big and stuff, and he's just more pathetic than anything, and he's sort of the villain, but then he just unleashes this other bigger villain thing, and it just goes to snot from there. And Parallax itself is supposed to be a huge bad, not something that I can think that Green Lantern at this stage should be fighting against.
No. See, with all this, I don't know. I honestly think they should have gone more the route of Green Lantern First Flight, the DC animated movie,
Right.
where it was him learning, and which is a great movie. This isn't What Else Is On, but I mean, real quickly, because it still sort of fits because it's comic book related. Hal Jordan, voiced by Christopher Maloney, does really great. Even though I do like
Fillion.
better. It starts off very similar, where it has the same origin story, but then he's taken off to Oa and all this stuff. But they play Sinestro very political, which is great. It's great. Like, they play Sinestro like he's a politician, and then they do all this stuff where he's like a bad cop teamed up with Hal Jordan and all that. So I would have liked to have seen that done for Green Lantern. I think that would have done a lot better. And then, you do the jokes, you tweak that to how you see fit.
I think the problem that I'm seeing with this idea of no jokes at DC is that it comes across like DC has no confidence in their writers, and also that they're going under a single vision for what they've announced is 20 films, 27 films, something ridiculous, some crazy number for the fact that they've had one movie in the new relaunch line that has done fairly okay, but not spectacularly in comparison to the other superhuman movies that are out there.
And then they got the second one that is supposed to launch a whole universe, but in reality, if you look at it, this second one, which will then launch off Batman, which will launch off its own universe which, if you look at this whole no jokes thing, I joked about this earlier, like in our pre-show meeting. That takes away. I joked around saying the Joker, but that does take away Riddler, because they talked about the success of the Batman, the Nolan's Batman stuff. where they did have Joker, and yes, you can play a serious Joker with like Ledger's Joker, but then you're going to get comparisons to Ledger's Joker, to whoever takes up if they do a serious sort of Joker.
I don't disagree with that, and the thing is that we're at a point where we don't really know much about their Batman in the current form. We know that it's Affleck, but we just finished a huge trilogy with Batman, and there's already going to be comparisons overall to that. There is comparisons to that now, unfairly or fairly, it doesn't matter, but that's already an issue. And those were themselves dark. I would think that you would want to differentiate the Batman in this from those three movies. You certainly don't want to have comparisons to the Schumacher movies, other than to say, thank God these aren't like the Schumacher movies.
Yeah, but honestly, I would love to see them do a 0-year type Riddler. That would be great.
That would be great, but we're starting with a Batman who is already being made out to be older.
Oh, yeah.
And not that that's very different from Marvel. I mean, when you look at the ages of Robert Downey Jr. and some of the other people that they've introduced, they're not young actors. I mean, they're not. Some of them are. Evans and Helmsworth are pretty young, but most of them are kind of my age, maybe even a little bit older than me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not. It's if we were getting 0-year, that would be kind of cool, but that's not where they're starting. They're starting with a more seasoned Batman, the younger sort of Superman.
Well, at least
an undefined Wonder Woman.
Yeah, well, when I say 0-year, I mean it doesn't have to be like this whole but at least like the shut down, locked off Gotham, not like 25 years ago.
But wasn't that sort of the third Batman movie? Wasn't that Dark Knight Rises?
Yeah, but it wasn't. Okay, yeah, like Dark Knight Rises, but to bring it back, you have to have this. You have to answer the riddles of the Riddler sort of deal.
Right.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I mean, other than the Riddler, what are the villains that we have left to choose from for Batman movies that haven't already just kind of been done? We got Bane a second time. We've gotten the Joker a second time. We've gotten Catwoman a second time. We had
Hush.
Scarecrow. Hush, which is never really that interesting to me, because Hush is something that happens because you have so much continuity, and you can kind of establish that anti-Batman character. If you're starting over again to give us Hush right off the bat, doesn't work really well. Hush is somebody who's you have the mystery of all these different people that I fought against. Who would be the one who would have all this inside knowledge and stuff, and then having it be revealed at the end that it's the childhood friend who never was mentioned in the comics before this.
Yeah.
Which is but
yeah, they just did. I think
not a lot left.
Is Hush? Hold on, real quick. Is Hush as a villain? Does he wear bandages and a brown leather jacket?
Yes.
Okay, they just revealed Hush in Batman Eternal, and I'm like, oh my goodness!
Yes, that is the rumor right now, is that Hush is the big bad for Batman Eternal, which again makes sense if you're using old continuity. I don't know how it works in the new 52 continuity, but that's something else. All right, so let's get back to the main story. So the Hitfix story is interesting. I don't know that I believe it, and I'll tell you why. One, again, it relies on them to have such a clear vision for the next 20 or so films right now, and I don't believe that for a second. I've seen no evidence of DC really having a clear vision for these things yet, because we keep getting these little tidbits of oh, and they just cast this person, oh, and they just cast this person, and then they just cast this person, and it's well, that's great. How much of this are you putting into this next movie? And
it would essentially be it would essentially be like them saying, okay, Zack Snyder is directing the next 20 movies.
Right.
David Esquire is essentially writing the next 20 movies.
Yeah.
Which, to use another analogy, is essentially like they're setting up mousetraps in this big room, and they've just set up enough mousetraps to put them in a corner. I believe the Jackass guys did that in the second movie, and now they're trying to run to the door.
But I like the metaphor.
And, yeah, that's essentially what's going to happen here.
The other thing is that we've established that The Rock is cast. It sounds like as Shazam, and I don't see. And I really hate the current version of Shazam in the New 52, so I hope that's not the basis. But even if that is, I don't see The Rock being who he is, playing a superheroic character that doesn't get to crack wise. The Rock has got a phenomenal personality when it comes to these kinds of films, even in the more serious things, and he's more serious in the Fast and Furious sequels than he is in some of his other stuff. But when you have The Rock as the star, he gets the chance to have some personality. You don't bleed that out of him, because then you get a performance like he was in Doom, which was horrible. I want to see The Rock get to play a hero, and I want to see The Rock get to be The Rock.
When you cast The Rock, you cast not only the physique, but you cast the charisma. So when you take out the jokes, especially for a character like Shazam, so with the New 52 one, it's not a kid, right? It's like kid.
No, it's a kid. It's a really, like, Billy's a jerk. Billy was always very, he's always been referred to as the big red cheese, and he's even more goody-goody than Superman and a lot of the old incarnations and stuff. And Billy as himself is the kid who's an orphan but is a reporter and stuff. So I can understand trying to clean up the continuity from that. So now they've got him in this foster home with all these other kids, but he's just kind of an asshole. And then as Shazam, he's even more of an asshole. I'm just not a big fan. If you want an anti-hero, then you go with Black Adam. Black Adam is a horrific villain, but he's kind of gone down the anti-hero path, especially when they had him be part of the JSA for a while with Captain Marvel. So that would be, and that's, again, another reason why it could have been The Rock in that part, is if he was playing an anti-hero, he can be kind of a badass, too. But I think it makes more sense to have him be Shazam, because The Rock is someone that people want to cheer for. They don't like him as a turn heel in wrestling, they like him as a good guy.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, and so you're helping prove my point here. The People's Champ is gonna. You're not wanting the eyebrow, like the God. I'm forgetting his catchphrase. The whole catchphrase that he would say.
No,
but you're not wanting. Well, no, he would do the whole thing before going la 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 la, like all that. But you're not wanting the dude who's just gonna sit there and not bring all the talking and all the charisma,
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want someone who's not going to bring it, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. I just think, as a person who did not enjoy Man of Steel, and Man of Steel had no humor to me, had no charisma. There was a commercial. There was, like, I think it might have been a Carl's Jr. or something commercial, something where, it might have been IHOP, actually, now that I think about it, because that got destroyed in the movie. But there was a commercial where they had guys doing construction, and Superman is in the fight with Zod, and he crashes down, and the guy's like, "Hey, we're working here," and Superman Cahill kind of like shrugs, like, "Sorry," and he flies off. And that, I was kind of hoping was a scene taken from the movie, because that was some charm. But that wasn't reflected in the film at all. The film was a lot of lies that were in advertisements, like, "Oh, this isn't an S, it stands for hope," as in hope I don't break your neck. But even with my vehement anger towards what this movie was, even with my anger about the film, I still can't see that this is something that would really be true. I think, if anything, they're trying to say we don't want campy, meaning we don't want Batman 66, we don't want Schumacher Batman films. I can see avoiding doing the silliness, making that very clear to everybody coming on. Like, just so you know, you're not making the Biff Bam Boom superheroes. You're making modern superheroes. It would distinguish them from the Marvel movies, but I don't think they want to be distinguished to that point because the Marvel movies work. And I think DC wants to have movies that also work. So I posted the story because I thought it was interesting, and there's a lot of people talking about it, and a lot of people are angry at the idea of it.
No, it is interesting. I'm just very curious if this is true. I definitely think they're painting themselves in a corner, especially because, and this is the difference between Marvel and DC, and they said this in the article. Marvel has very flawed characters. I think this is why I was drawn to Marvel as a fan. Marvel's characters are always very flawed, and actually why I was drawn initially to Spider-Man, because you have Peter Parker, who's this nerdy kid who was growing up, always got picked on, all this, and then just by sheer accident gets spider powers. You know, Hulk. This kid goes out or is out in this playing where he shouldn't be playing, essentially, and so Bruce Banner, goes out to save this kid. Now, whenever he gets angry, turns into the Incredible Hulk. There's all these stories of flawed people that get these extraordinary powers. But you look at DC, it's almost like these gods, essentially. Like these people who are just greater than you. Even Batman. Like you look at the Slash trilogy, the Nolanverse, in a way. It was like the legend of the Batman. Where it's like Batman could be anybody, it's just like this symbol in a way, where to strike fear, it's supposed to strike fear in the hearts of the villains or whatever. And so this no joke thing, I think, was coming from that, and I'm like, okay, I get that, but you still have a lot of very funny, like, not funny, ha 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 ha, they're just comic relief, but people who are very quippy with their humor.
And you should. If you're going to get to a point where you're going to have 6 or 7 people as all of a team in a movie, when you get to the Justice League film at the very least, you're going to have some altering personalities. You're going to have character conflict, but you're also going to have somebody who's going to be able to lighten the mood, to bring things back. Because if it's just, we just go in and fight and that's it, that's not terribly interesting. Visually, it can be, but if you want people tied to it with emotions, and this is the thing, we're talking about the biggest movie of the year is a movie where people got emotional about a tree and a raccoon.
Yep.
People felt connected to these characters. And if DC was not DC, but their comics are even turning away from that kind of feeling now. They're introducing some more lighthearted stuff finally. But if Warner Brothers really thinks that they can do that without that kind of thing, I think they're gonna be in trouble. I don't believe that that's the case, because that they're looking at the success of these movies and they're saying, yeah, we need to pay attention to this. This is the closest thing we have to our property. Of course, we've been in competition with each other forever. We need to pick up on what they're doing, and then we need to make it our own. And I expect them to do that. I don't know. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, which is hard with how I felt about the last 3 movies from them.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let's move on to the second story, and this is I'm gonna go basically sum up the article because it's more rumors than anything, and this is essentially the rumors that the post-credits scene in Avengers: Age of Ultron will be a new team for the third Avengers movie, and that's not necessarily the rumor. Well, the full rumor. The full rumor is that one of them may or may not be Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel. I guess in the script she's referred to as Miss Marvel, but in the full-on thing, it's like everyone's referring to her as Captain Marvel. Like,
it's the Carol Danvers version of Miss Marvel, is the expectation. And again, a rumor conjecture, and we've all been praying that Marvel would do a Carol Danvers style movie. First of all, how do you feel about the idea of her being called Miss Marvel as opposed to Captain Marvel, and the reasoning behind that?
I don't know. I'm iffy on it, because like I understood why they did it in the comic books because there was already a Captain Marvel in the Marvel universe, Marvel.
Right.
But it's like if they're not gonna do Marvel, then why not just call her Captain Marvel? Because then it's like
because there's two captains. I think that's what I worry about, is that if they are holding back because they don't want to confuse people by having two captains, and she loses her ranking because of the fact that he's already got it, then there's going to be, I swear to God, there's going to be a Jezebel article, there's going to be a Mary Sue article that's going to say, oh, why do only men get to be captains and stuff. If it's just to distinguish her a little bit more, maybe. I think that she deserves to be Captain Marvel just for the same reason, because it's her ranking, and plus it's a cool name. But
yeah,
as to the secret group of new Avengers, let's mix all of the titles in there.
yeah. It
maybe they'll be young and
but
undercover.
it is gonna, yeah. Which is ending next year or next issue, by the way, because Dennis Hopeless is working on. Oh, what book? I saw it this week. Well, not the issue, but like I saw he was working on something that got me all excited. But no, it's good. It's like part of the team is going to be working on, but like part of the team is going to be in Avengers 3. That's from these two. Is in these two movies, and so it's probably going to be like Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, and then probably I don't know.
If it's there's a bunch of stuff to kind of follow down this rabbit hole. If it's Captain America that's forming them, then Falcon will probably be part of it. The rumor of Captain Marvel. There's definitely been rumors of Black Panther somehow winding up in part of the universe at some point. But we still have to go on the fact that isn't Evans only signed up for a couple more films? Don't we presume that there's a third Captain America and then a third Avengers, and isn't that sort of supposed to be when he's done?
Yeah, and this is honestly where I would love to see comic books meet film, and Anthony Mackie take over the mantle of Captain America. To be completely honest, because I've heard a whole bunch of people say that the Captain America, Falcon as Captain America will only last, like a year or two. And I'm like, I don't think so, bro, or lady, bro, because it sounds like a great thing. I mean, why? Because I'm starting to get to this point where it's like, and again, we can find on the internet where I've said, why is Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four going to be black? Where it's not a race thing for me. It's just but in continuity, here you look at in the comic books, and it's and there's been other little red flags for me. It's they're telling him not to do this or that, and it's like, and that's just me setting up backstory for myself here. But it's like, let's have it follow from the comic books. Let's follow it in the movies. You know.
Well, I don't disagree with that. Anthony Mackie was great in The Winter Soldier. I really enjoyed his character. What I would argue, there's a couple of things. One is that the person who played the Winter Soldier, who played Bucky, is signed on for a lot of films, and we've definitely gone down the road of the character being Captain America for a while in the comics. So I'm pretty sure they set that up as a possibility. So now they have two options. Also, the big thing for me is that I've always loved the Falcon as a character. I don't feel like I've gotten enough Falcon in the movies yet to see him switch to a different role. I want to see him fleshed out more. I want to see him emphasized more. I want to see them take it to the next level, because it was mostly like he was just sort of taking that part in the Winter Soldier, but he hadn't really gone to the hero portion of it yet. I mean, he's definitely heroic. He definitely is a big part of how the movie works and the plot and everything, how it all finishes off at the end. But I'd like to get to explore Falcon more, because I would like to, if at some point, and it's comics, so I expect at some point they will go back to Steve being Captain America. That's just how comics are.
I hope not.
It's comics, though, dude. It's gonna happen. It happens with everything. But I would like to see it last longer than a year. It seems like they always kind of do this, where it's, oh, this lasts for a little while. How long was Dick Grayson Batman? It was 3 months before we found out Bruce was coming back from the dead. So and Peter came back into his own body again. It's just, that's the realism of comics, is that it goes through cycles to repeat itself. That's how they keep it evergreen.
Yeah, no,
but
that's true.
I would like to see Falcon established more as a character that gets to be in the public eye, and Anthony Mackie get to be established as his own character, as opposed to just stepping into the shoes of another character. Because being a legacy is great and all. It's some good stuff, and we're talking about Carol Danvers taking over the role of Captain Marvel. But in the films, we don't have to have her take on the role from somebody else. She could just always have been Captain Marvel from the beginning. And I would like to see, if we're going to finally be introducing more minority characters and more female characters, I'd like to see them get to be their own characters. You know, that's the nice thing about Black Widow, is she may have been the only woman as part of the Avengers team, but she was not a sidekick. She was not I took this role from somebody else. It was all her. She was established as her own. And that is something that doesn't happen enough in comics, because we're talking about dealing with continuity from 60 years ago.
Well, that's sort of, it's true. And I think I cut you off from your thought there. Because you got any more thoughts from this story before I go on to another little quick? We got two more little quick stories.
Just in relation to this, I think the other thing to keep in mind is, if we do see the secondary group of Avengers happen, I would almost think that it's not just one, because they are trying to establish Doctor Strange and stuff. I could see it being that there are two groups of Avengers, not just because of Cap, but who is probably trying to do some stuff because of the stuff that happened at the end of Winter Soldier with S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything, but also because of Tony, because there's still rumors that they're going to do a Planet Hulk storyline, even though it's been debunked a lot. If Tony did some Illuminati thing where he felt like he had to get rid of the Hulk and get him off planet, then there could be that Secret Avengers, New Avengers kind of thing. They could play around with that too. But it's really hard to see this happening if we're only going to get one more Avengers movie with Cap down the road.
Yeah. Right. Well, that sort of leads into our next quick little story from Escapist magazine, where Adriana Pilecki, who was once almost Wonder Woman.
Well, she
Is now,
was. You can see it.
yeah, you can see it.
But it almost in the sense that it was nothing like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Not her fault.
Yeah, it's not her fault. It's more on the lines that NBC didn't pick it up or anything like that. Is going to be is now going to be I'm blanking on the is now going to be Bobby Moore Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird, Hawkeye's wife.
Well,
or ex-wife, if you want to go in current.
Well, let's go back. Mockingbird
current comic book continuity is Hawkeye's ex-wife.
Yeah, is currently in the years and years of history, but that is not what she was created to be. I didn't even know that she started out. She was first introduced in Kazar comic, but there was always the sense, especially when they hooked her and Hawkeye up and had them get married and stuff in the Hawkeye series, that she was kind of Marvel's answer to Black Canary to Hawkeye's Green Arrow. They very much played off of that whole thing, including the fact that her last name is Morse, and Morse is of course, relates to sound, and sound, canary cry. But be that as it may, Mockingbird has a lot of her own story, her own history and stuff. She has been an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. She's done a lot of amazing different things in the comics, and she stood on her own a lot when Hawkeye was not involved with her. It may have been originally that she was, even though she came in from another book, it may be that she was planned to be hooked up with Hawkeye or something. But I don't think that that's the established story in the Marvel movie universe.
No, it's
at
not,
least
no, it's
not yet. But it is something that if you're going to go with the idea that there is a continuity between the TV shows and the movies, and I would love to see a Hawkeye movie anyways.
Yeah, I just like that little bit because I look back at the one issue of Hawkeye where it was the three girlfriends,
right,
or the three loves of Hawkeye, where you had the work wife, the ex-wife, and the current wife, the current girlfriend. Yeah, where it's that. But and here from the article from the Escapist magazine, there's already an impressive cast coming and joining, and the sad thing is Adrian Palicki. It sounds like this is more of a guest spot or a recurring spot than a permanent thing, which is sad because she would have been, I think, the first super to join the cast, aside from Deathlock, who was more recurring than anything else. But you have Lucy Lawless and Kyle MacLachlan scheduled to make appearances in the new season.
Can I just say Lucy Lawless, who was sort of our pseudo Wonder Woman on TV, was a better Wonder Woman than Wonder Woman in a lot of ways, and then the Wonder Woman from the unaired pilot. That all we need to do is get Linda Carter. It'd be awesome. But
yeah, I mean, so this is actually at the end here, it says, it is not yet known whether this indicates the possibility of Jeremy Renner, who plays Hawkeye in the Marvel films, appears on Agents. They throw that in there at the end.
Yes, which, of course, that's what we want to see. We want to see something happen. And the thing is with Palicki, she was in the sequel, the G.I. Joe sequel, as Lady J. Yeah. So she's played a badass before, a couple of times now, and she's a very good actress. So she has establishment in films that were, at least meant to be blockbusters. I don't know how well the G.I. Joe sequel did. I watched it. It was definitely far better than the first one, and she was very good in it. So she has a potential to cross from show to movie. But since they haven't done a Hawkeye movie, and Renner in films has, he did the Bourne movie. He did the Hurt Locker, which was phenomenal, and he was great in. But he hasn't done a lot of big films. He was in, and I haven't seen it yet, the one that actually just won the Oscars last year. But I can't remember the name of it now, with Jennifer Lawrence.
I don't know it.
Oh,
Crap, I know this one.
yeah.
Oh, that one. The one.
Come on, Beatmaster. You're supposed to be giving us.
Evan's the one who's on these things usually, and Evan's not here.
Anyway,
I know the one you're talking about though too.
But so he's been in really successful films, of course, too. But I can see him still allowing for a TV series, probably more of a direct to Netflix kind of thing. You know, that kind of thing. Like if I'm going to do TV, I'm going to be on HBO or on Netflix or one of these other places and stuff, so that I don't feel I'm slumming it to TV, even though Disney owns ABC. I could really see that could be a possibility. American Hustle. Thank you. So, this is not to take away from Renner, crazy. But it wasn't that long ago that Renner was on an ABC series, which was a cop series. It was actually pretty good, but nobody watched it. That I could see him possibly doing something like that, or at least
wasn't that long ago he was on a reality TV show.
I don't remember that.
It was called The It Factor.
I definitely don't remember that, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because it was horrible. I think it was on like VH1 or something.
All right.
But it was about like reality TV stars and like, or not reality TV stars, but like actors and stuff trying to make it. It only lasted like one season.
Okay. Well, that doesn't make. So it's very interesting because we look at what DC's doing with Arrow and the Flash, and we have talked about our wonderment as to why they're not taking those characters and introducing them in the movie universe. And not only that, but they're making many separate TV universes. So the Flash and Arrow connect to each other, but they're not going to connect to Constantine because it's on NBC, and they're not going to connect to Gotham because it's on Fox. So
I actually had a theory about this. My theory is the multiverse. Basically the film universe is Earth 1. The cinematic universe is Earth 1. Then the CW universe is Earth 2. Then NBC is Earth 3. And Fox is Earth 4.
Fox would have to be Earth C for canceled, because that's what Fox does.
Yeah.
But no, that's funny. Yeah, and that's the thing. Marvel is going the route of having everything be very interconnected, and if you watch one, then you benefit from seeing them all. You don't have to watch them all. It's not Pokemon, but you could get something more, something deeper, if you follow the paths through the different things. And that, again, is, as a comic book person, is pretty compelling, because that's how comics have worked for a long time. When they started doing those little bits of, like, you can follow what happened to Mr. Fantastic over here in Marvel Team Up number 72, True Believer, that kind of thing. And so it would be interesting to me if DC did that. They're not, but we have these opportunities, so we kind of always second guess. Oh, they're introducing somebody who was Hawkeye's wife in the comics, so obviously they've got to get Hawkeye involved. It's not just that would be cool. It's like, oh, that's really possible. That's actually conceivable that it could happen.
It's one of those things where it's like, even if it's just like a little, like, not even credited, like just uncredited thing, you see Jeremy Renner and Adrian, like as the credits are rolling, they walk by and you just see him go, like, head nod or whatever,
right? Or
she just like hard shoulder bump thing, like like something like a scorned ex-wife would do to him.
The other thing is that I haven't seen a lot of really great fighting stuff on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That was one of my complaints about the first season, is they would do the fighting bits, and it seemed like the fighting on Buffy was better stunted and choreographed than what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was doing. So when you start to get people who have done more action stuff in them, Lucy Lawless definitely has, and Adrian Palacki, then maybe we'll get to see more of that. Maybe we'll see the action up some notches in this season. But definitely we have a potential, this is another female superhero. Really only Sif sort of counts, so only our third in the Marvel.
Well, okay. When I say superhero, I mean created in the show.
No, I mean in general. I just mean in general.
Yeah.
When you look at the Marvel Universe for the films, it's Black Widow.
Yeah.
And it's Sif. And arguably, you could say that there was something kind of with Pepper Potts briefly at the end of Iron Man 3. But that's it.
Yeah.
So this is our third actual, hero from the comics that's a woman so far. So good, and why not take that and work it into the films? I would like to see that happen, and there's a lot of movies that could use some more characters. And since they're saying that they're not, the other rumor is that with Doctor Strange, they're saying that they're not interested in just telling origin stories anymore. They're going to bring them in kind of pre-established. And it's not that they won't go back and say how they got their abilities and stuff and give a little bit of back history, but that's not what the movies are about. It's telling the very beginning of the characters anymore. So you can have people come in who have their stories kind of established or got established in something else, and you don't have to explain it in the movie. Then it's perfectly reasonable to have her pop from the show into one of the films or a bunch of the films and be maybe part of that Avengers team.
Yeah, no, that's true. So let's move on real quick, sort of tying into still Marvel. And here I will pop this into our group chat for you, Corey. To an article on Comic Book Resources that Donald Glover is finally playing Spider-Man. Sort of. He is cast as to play Miles Morales in Disney XD's Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, this is a little bit when I was writing the article earlier today, because this was originally going to be the story that was replaced by the Captain Marvel, which led to the Adrian Palicki story. This is sort of Spider-Man meets the upcoming Spider-Verse story event thing. And actually, I believe the episode is called Spider-Verse.
Right.
Or these episodes. This will be airing next year. And the episodes feature Peter Parker, voiced by Drake Bell, if you don't know that, hopping through parallel universes, chasing the Green Goblin, who's trying to collect the DNA of the different Spider-Men, or the Spider Peoples, I should say, and he comes across the Iron Spider, Spider-Man 2099, which has me excited, the Amazing Spider-Girl, and Miles Morales. Now, this is actually where I'm interested, because Brian Michael Bendis is the creative consultant, I believe, on Ultimate Spider-Man, and so they actually stay really true to the Ultimate Spider-Man character, because the meeting here, Miles Morales is 13 years old, true to the comic book, when they actually met in Spider-Man, and Peter Parker has died in this universe.
Right.
The article, it shows a picture, and there's actually a clip in there, and the clip, they talk about this, they actually show the clip from their meeting and all this stuff, and they actually talk about Donald Glover's love for the wall crawler as a child, and actually the inspiration for Brian Michael Bendis to make the to even make Miles Morales, where it happened at the season 2 premiere of Community, where you see Troy coming in, is shown wearing Spider-Man pajamas,
Right.
and it was just a brief appearance, but and Brian Michael Bendis was quoted saying he looked fantastic. I saw him in the costume, and I thought I would like to read that book, and so I was glad I was writing that book. And Glover told, and this is the end paragraph. Glover told USA Today that portraying a 13-year-old Miles didn't require that much of a stretch. That's the great part about the Spider-Man costume. He could be anybody. He said, "This sounds awfully familiar to Andrew Garfield, to be completely honest." He said this tons of times.
Yeah,
doing.
I think it
Yeah.
answered to a lot of the stuff that Glover had originally made statements, and the fact that when Glover made the statement that he wanted to play Spider-Man, the internet broke in half, to use a Bendisism.
Yeah. Glover said, Spider-Man could be a girl, Spider-Man could be an old man. You don't know. So I just tried to be as me as possible, because you're always just going to bring it back to yourself when you watch the show.
Yeah.
And the clip, you see this, it looks very much, it looks honestly like and it's weird saying this, but it looks very much like a blend between Miles Morales and Donald Glover, which is weird because Miles Morales is based on Donald Glover. So it looks like Donald Glover and Donald Glover.
My
But
only
no,
problem with it is that I watched the clip and Donald's voice does not sound like a 13-year-old.
It's
But it's okay.
It sounds better than when you watch the episode that he guested on for regular show, where he's doing like this hip hop person, and it's like I like this better because you hear the kindness in the voice. Like it sounds more. There's more kindness and stuff than yo 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 and stuff like that. Like that was really white of me, and I probably should never do that ever again.
Honestly, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna insult somebody who I usually like in a lot of stuff, but comparatively, Seth Green's portrayal of Rick Jones in the Agents of Smash, oh man, that is just such a bad take on a character, and I don't blame him because it's obviously the direction they wanted the cartoon to go, and how they want the character to be. But that character annoys the hell out of me.
That character honestly is, and I know it's like 3 steps above the, actually no, 2 steps above the nerdy character from Robot Chicken.
It's Poochie. It's Poochie from The Simpsons. If you're watching The Simpsons this week, remember Poochie? No, there's a reason. So that's kind of what the character is. It's just, we got it. Put somebody hip that kids can relate to in this. We don't know what that means, but hey. So yeah,
exactly.
It's great. Every little bit of validation that Donald Glover gets to tie into the Spider-Verse makes me feel a little bit better. I also saw this week there was the story that was released. It's just a little kind of thing, but there was a picture of Troy from Community hanging in Peter Parker's room in the Amazing Spider-Man movie. And it's just one of those little things you had to really know to look for it to see it, and you'd have to zoom in like crazy to get to it. It doesn't matter, but it's that little bit of awesome of somebody on set, be it the director or Garfield or just somebody there said, yeah, we should put Donald Glover in the movie somehow. Because he got kind of jerked around for just making a statement of like, I think it'd be awesome to play Spider-Man. You know what? It would be awesome if he got to play Spider-Man. But what I think is maybe even more awesome is that he didn't just play a character that existed, but he was the basis for the creation of a new character. Of a character that wouldn't have existed without him having that moment in the first place. And that all of these other kids and stuff are going to be able to grow up and say, I could play that Spider-Man. That Spider-Man does seem like me. It does look like me. It does reflect who I am. and that character didn't exist before, and that is so much freaking cooler than just being the guy after Tobey Maguire and whoever the guy was in the 70s, I can't remember his name, to play Spider-Man before. In a long line of Spider-Men, that's pretty awesome, but to be the basis for a brand new Spider-Man is way more awesome. But I just think it's cool.
No, yeah, definitely. So next, and actually I have two things of comic book news. One might be a little bit more discussion-y. I put the link, again, in the group chat for us. Where it made quite a bit of stink, and you can definitely tell the bias in people. I'm gonna do my American pronunciation of his name, Milo Manera, variant of Spider-Woman #1, has caused a lot of ruckus.
Can you describe the ruckus, sir?
Yeah. So the variant of the picture is of Spider-Woman, as Milo has described it, roughly translated, as one person has said, using a free translation tool, Google, I'm assuming, her coming up from the top of a tower, with their heart-shaped derriere, as Beatmaster has put it, going over and all this stuff. And so, yeah, it looks... It's very provocative. A lot of women have come up in arms saying this isn't natural. Women, don't bend that way. I watched a video where a girl and two other of her gymnast friends actually tried this, and I'm like, all right, okay, yeah, that's. I see your point. But a lot of this is making a big stink over nothing. In my opinion. Well, okay. Nothing's a bad choice of words. Nothing's a bad choice of words.
And that's why I was going to stop you. Here's the thing. I look at this controversy as just over the top. I think that, and I'm gonna point out that the Mary Sue and other things like that site have done a lot of good. But once they got their audience to a certain point, it feels sometimes like they tag things because that's what their site is about now, and that's how they get their clicks. And they're not the only ones that are like that. That's like that for every kind of news site or blog site or whatever. I feel like we expect this kind of art because it has been this way for so long. And if that still was all that was happening, if that was all the art was anymore, then it would still be a huge problem. It's still not a small problem. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Greg Land, who is the interior artist for this Spider-Woman book, is known to trace pornography for the books that he does. I'm not speaking out of turn here. This is something that there's been plenty of evidence of online. I have a problem with it more because artistically he's basically not working for what he does. But in my opinion, Marvel has done a lot of books and a lot of great stuff that has shown women being stronger, being more fulfilling characters for a long time. I mean, if you go back to the early 80s, it was way back then that we had as many female X-Men characters as we did male characters, and that's part of why the X-Men got so popular, because it was a very even team. It wasn't just the one woman on the team like it was in the 60s when the book started. It was like we got Storm, and we got Kitty Pryde, and we got Rogue, and they became more and more popular. And yeah, then they did things like give us I Want Your Sex Psylocke, and it's not like it goes away.
Yeah.
But stylized artwork is stylized artwork, and Manera is a guy who does make erotic comics, so whoever hired him at Marvel knew what they were hiring him for.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is not his take, it's that Marvel hired him to make this alternate cover for this book. But maybe that's what this book is, and it's not the only take that you could do with the Jessica Jones Spider-Woman character. Maybe it's not the take that you should do, and it comes down to, well, then you don't buy that book. If it's not what people want to buy, it will price itself out. It will stop existing because people won't want to see it. They'll buy something else instead. Maybe we'll get a Kate Bishop Hawkeye book. Or maybe we'll get more stuff like Miss Marvel that is doing phenomenally. Be that as it may, it's one book out of a whole line. And you shouldn't eliminate all of one thing just to make the point of we've been over inundated with it for so long. You get to have it all. You get to do it all. And there are going to be cheesecake books. It's not like that's just going to go away. But there's hopefully going to be a lot more books starring strong female characters that aren't cheesecakey, that have art that is more relatable, that make women feel like they can pick up those comics and feel comfortable with it without feeling like they're being objectified in the pages within. I understand it. I just kind of disagree with it. I think we're just trying too hard now.
Yeah. Here's the the orders page of it, and as you can see, this right here is the traditional cover done by Greg Land, I believe is doing the cover, and then this is the Milo Manera cover, and then this right. Oh, wait, hold up. Let me zoom out. This right here is all the covers he's done in the past 2 years, so for 2013 and 2014. So starting with Avengers World, and then going all the way to the Spider-Woman cover.
And most of them, of course, are female characters. Now, first of all, can I just point out, over on the Battle of the Atom cover, is we're talking about a Marvel universe that has characters that wear outfits like what Emma Frost is wearing. I mean, that is, to me, way more offensive than the Pose cover of Spider-Woman, because she's expected to walk around like that all the time.
Yeah. No, dude. Yeah, that is true. That is true. This is the Uncanny X-Men Battle of the Atom cover. Right there. And that's
man.
That's her normal cover. That's her normal clothes too.
That is the outfit, and she's never had a tasteful outfit.
And I will point out, can you find the one guy in here?
There's two. Isn't that one over? No, I guess that's not a guy. Who I don't know that character on Avengers World.
That one? That's nope. Smasher.
All right. See, I wouldn't have even recognized it as a female with my terrible eyesight. But there is Nightcrawler, who does not bend like a normal human being anyways. He's always been very agile and stuff, so he is expected to be posed strangely. Yeah, I can't say that I look at any of the Manera covers and can say that the people who find them to be non-realistic are wrong. No, they're right. They're absolutely right. And are they sensationalizing how women's bodies are portrayed and stuff? Yep, absolutely. And that is what that guy has done for a long time. That is the basis of his artwork. And I bet it goes over very well where he's from, and it has probably gone over very well here for a long time. It's just we are on...
And then there was... and then there was another thing, and they did bring up the fact that the interior artist of Greg Land does, actually they were right. The problem is not the Manera variant that nobody has to buy. The problem is that the regular cover is by Greg Land, and that the book will have Greg Land interior art as well. From the uninitiated, the complaints about Land's work range from that his rampant tracer, swiper, recycler, to the fact that much of what he traces and photo references is porn. And it has its place, but it's not in the mainstream superhero comics.
All right, now here's where I'm gonna go off on my rant. You know the problem with that that statement that Greg Land's art, which yes is tracing porn, and is not something that I find interesting at all. It's why I couldn't get into the Avengers book that was out recently that was written very well and had characters I wanted to read and support, but it had Greg Land art, and I didn't want to read it. Here's the point.
Wait, what book was that?
What was the more recent Mighty Avengers? The one we didn't mention. We were talking about all the Avengers teams coming up in the new movie.
Oh crap! I didn't realize that was Greg Land.
Yeah, it started out with Greg Land. So here's the thing, though. Greg Land's art sells. It sells well enough that he remains employed by Marvel and has remained employed by Marvel for many, many years. So you can say it's what some people don't want to see or buy. I agree with you. I fully agree because I don't want to buy it. But some people do. And you can't point fingers and say this person's art is wrong and this person's art is right, because that's a really messed up, slippery slope where you just basically get to the point eventually of burning books. And I know it sounds like, oh no, that's really extreme. Yeah, it starts out sounding not so extreme until it is. And I think we're getting to that point where we need to kind of settle down and say stuff gets to exist, but I get to not purchase it. I have the choice to not buy that stuff, and then if I'm not supporting it, maybe they will stop making it. Maybe they'll stop making it that way. There's a big difference between there's a big difference between saying I don't want to buy this versus nobody should buy this. And that's what you need to kind of get your head around, people, is at some point or another, you're just kind of enforcing your own will upon everyone, and that's dumb. All right? So, yeah, it sucks. It sucks that so many things are like that. But not every comic is rape culture. They're just comics, dude. Just
exactly.
Buy or don't buy.
Exactly.
And do one better. Go out there and make your own comics and make them better. Make them smarter. Make them more approachable. Make them enjoyable. And let people know that those exist, and we can gravitate towards that. That would be great. That's what I want to see. That's why I look at stuff online.
Yeah. And then lastly, after that Corey rant, this is just really quick. DC's flagship superhero team is getting a new artist. Starting with issue number 36 in November, Justice League, issue number 36, I should say. They will get a new regular artist in Jason Fabok. Fabok. He will be joining Jeff Johns as the writer, who is also DC's chief creative officer, Jeff Johns, I should say. In there, and he actually said in here in a quote that I read the article that he is super excited. He also did the art for Batman Eternal. He did for the first few issues first arc on Batman Eternal. He said, "I've always dreamed of drawing Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, Lex Luthor, Aquaman, and the myriad of supervillains that comprise the Justice League books. And Jeff Johns has such an awesome story crafted. I can't wait for fans to see what he has in store for the coming months. It's going to get epic. I'm so thankful for this opportunity, and hope that fans will look forward to what we have in store." And then it talks about the backstory of it, and that next issue of Justice League is on sale this Wednesday. So yeah, that was just a quick little shouty out thing that, hey, we get a new artist in November for the Justice League.
I find these stories more compelling when ongoing artists are ongoing for more than 6 issues. But good for him. It's nice to see someone who's still kind of just taking off, getting put onto a big name book like that. And I've seen his art, and his art is very good. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've enjoyed his art on Batman Eternal.
yeah. Still not really
Especially with
jumping for joy on the Justice League right now. It just hasn't. I don't know. I'm trying.
so far. Yeah, so far the Justice League book's been good.
So far from when?
Um, 31. I think when Lex Luthor joined is when I hopped on too.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, here's a jumping on point for me. But so that's the news. I know we went a little bit longer on the news, but hey, we're trying. It's an alpha. We get to try new things with our format. Who said we're going to stick with one format and keep it? It's an alpha. We could try things. Get off her back, Mom.
I learned from watching you. Okay.
So now it's on to segment 2, the quick reviews, or sub or
quick.
snub. So Corey, you read the Multiversity #1.
Yeah. Did you not?
I did.
Okay. Good. So Multiversity #1, just to give a little bit of a history to it, it is a book that Morrison has been promising for a long time. I think this was talked about well before Final Crisis, which it definitely references. It's been talked about since back in the day that Wade was working for DC on stuff like JLA. When Morrison and Wade were both doing JLA stuff, they've been trying to figure out the multiverse thing. And so this is probably before Infinite Crisis, and maybe even Identity Crisis. They were talking about something called Hypertime around the time of Kingdom Come and the Kingdom and things like that, and trying to make something exist so that everything from every multiverse, Elseworlds, that's what kind of we're named after, storyline in the DC continuity, the shows, all of it gets to coexist somehow. And I don't know what the original plan was for Hypertime. It's been approached here and there, but Multiversity is kind of where it's finally wound up. And this may be Morrison's last big hurrah in the DC universe. He's been slowly pulling back and everything, but this was that last thing that he'd been working on while he was still kind of finishing up Batman Inc. and those other things. So I would say, as a person with a long history of reading DC, it's a really cool issue. It's still got that Morrison-y kind of weirdness, and sometimes he'll throw a term in because it sounds pseudoscience-y and makes you think, oh, I wonder what that means. But if he doesn't flesh it out, it doesn't mean dick. And it's like I've gotten over that part of Morrison's work. A lot of big ideas that are never really fully explained. But he does some good stuff in this because he does draw from old continuity, and it feels, rightly, because it ties to it a little bit, more like the original Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline than probably all of the other big Crisis storylines that they've done combined so far. Mm-hmm. And it's one issue in. But it brings up characters like the Harbinger. It also has Captain Carrot, and it seems to be the real Captain Carrot, even though he looks like he's drawn for mainstream comics now. There is a point in time where he takes a hit and he gets all flattened out, and it's kind of like Roger Rabbit, Toontown kind of thing. And he pops back up and he says, "Who else wants to argue with cartoon physics?" Which is possibly the best line in any book all week. And I felt like cheering that this comic was happening, that he was in this. We get the President Superman, who Morrison was using in some of his other Final Crisis stuff, I think, in the Superman storyline and side story and all that. Nick Utoan, or Yoden, I don't remember exactly. He's got tons of references to comic characters from other companies. Like, there's 2 different versions of the Avengers, essentially, in this. There's a couple different versions of the Fantastic Four that get kind of slaughtered in this, and a Doctor Doom. There's even references to characters like the Savage Dragon. It is not just their continuity, but it's everybody's continuity gets folded into this, and it's really over the top, crazy, and it's trying to keep you disoriented by the fact that you're essentially pulled into the book because everything is about reading comics. That one comic leads into the next comic, but they all reference each other and stuff. They even talk about the fact that Rodney, which is Captain Carrot's alter ego, drew comics. That was part of the basis of him, is that he drew the DC comic stuff in his Animal World, and Superman jumped out of it in the first issue of Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew. So I was all over that. It just seems that it not only references all these things, but it's respectful of them all. Everybody gets to have a part that feels like I'm not just tearing this down, but I'm making something good out of it. His alternate version of Thor, essentially, is one of the main leads in this. He's called Thunderer. He's an Australian guy. And it's just really cool. It's like, yeah, if I was going to get to just make my own comic universe and grab everything that I wanted, every toy from everywhere, that's way, way awesome. So, yeah, like I said, I'm still kind of wishy-washy on a lot of the New 52 stuff. This is decidedly not New 52 so far, and I think that makes it a little bit more palatable. But it's just way over-the-top nuts and fun.
Yeah.
And one of the best examples of what Morrison is like when he's on his game.
No, yeah. I definitely enjoyed the issue. I didn't get a lot of the stuff in there. Like, I definitely picked up that it was the Fantastic Four, or it was the Fantastic Four, in there, and not the, or I didn't pick up quite that it was the Avengers, or I think I might have actually, like, 'cause I think I might have saw like it was like that was like, oh, that looked like Captain America's shield or whatever, and stuff like that. But like, I definitely picked up, because I usually get in a mindset like, oh, this is a DC book, so like getting the DC mindset. But I think I might have picked up like, wait, that sort of looks like Savage Dragon. But it's more like I'm familiar with who Savage Dragon is, not so much like, okay, that's like that I'm super familiar with Savage Dragon because I haven't read a Savage Dragon comic, and all that stuff.
What I'd really like to see, just as like the infinite wish list of stuff in here, Image Comics did a crossover with all of their original superhero titles and all of the original Image creators that included Savage Dragon, not Wildcats because Wildcats got bought by DC, but Youngblood, I believe Cyberforce must have been a part of it. Invincible and all of those guys get pulled into it. Spawn, this big giant crossover was happening several years ago, and all of the people were drawing their own characters in this, so we knew it was going to be a problem. I think issue 2 finally made it out. It was being written by Robert Kirkman, but you just couldn't. There was no way. It was ever going to be finished. I would love for Morrison to somehow write an ending of that story in this.
Before that
represent it somehow to kind of like make a world where all of that stuff was actually happening, and just make his alternate versions of all those characters as one of the different Earths in this, and just write the ending for it. And just kind of like, you guys are never going to get to it, so shut up about it, everybody. Here you go. Here's how I would have finished it.
No, that'd be great. But no, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed, for especially like with seeing how, but seeing all the different like alternate takes, because I sort of had a different understanding of it, like I was figuring like, and again, like, because this is coming from seeing like from over at Marvel with the New Avengers, like with like the different Earths over there, like I'm like, okay, so they got to get like all these different, like they're gathering like essentially like a champion from all these different Earths or all these different planets to battle or whatever, and so it's like, and like so it's just like seeing like all these different like the the female Aquaman and all these different heroes and
Yeah,
all this. Like
I
when I
would.
saw that big splash page, that's what sort of caught my eye.
Yeah, and you
So,
have you said you've got a limited uh, imprint essentially of what you know about the DC universe so far. I would challenge you. In fact, I am challenging you. Read Crisis on Infinite Earths. When I read Crisis, yes, I knew about the Justice League and the different main DC heroes, and I knew a little bit about Earth 2 at that point in time because they had crossovers between the JSA and the Justice League. And I think even at that point I was reading All-Star Squadron for a while, so I understood that on Earth 2 there was a history of characters and stuff from the 40s, during the World War, during FDR and stuff like that. I knew some of the stuff, but Crisis on Infinite Earths expanded my consciousness of what the DC universe was, and expanded the DC universe as a whole, anyways. And it introduced me to characters that I'd never heard of, and it made me care about them. But it still told a very focused, incredible story. Read that book. It's 12 issues. Find a way to get it. Read it. It will make this make more sense, but it will overall just give you what I feel is just that starting point to get DC as a whole, and may wreck you for some of DC current continuity, but probably not too much. It will certainly spoil you because of the fact that George Perez is the artist, and there is nobody who is more of a master than Perez.
all right.
The amount of characters he can put on a page, make them all look distinctive, and fill up with, like, you can't believe that all of these characters can exist on one page of comic, you will be blown away.
All right. Well, I would say that might be our segment 3 for the next episode. If we don't get a
We can make it a segment. We can put it in there. We'll find a
yeah.
room. We can shift stuff around, man.
All right. So I might have to switch my reviews around then, because my second review, which was going to be my first review, which is going to be my second review, All New X-Men number 31. This issue was written by Brian Michael Bendis and art by Mahmoud Azra. Started with the teachers leaving, and I think will be picked up eventually in the Last Will and Testament of Professor Xavier. They've been teasing this so much, like, I'm starting to get blue balls, to be honest. Like, I think it was an Original Sins book, but then it's like they don't get to anywhere. I'm like, come on, where is... Let's go! Come on! What is going on with that? But like, so that's for a different story. So we get going around. Hank's messing with with Cerebro like he always does. The time displaced Hank, of course, because this is all new X-Men. This is following the time displaced X-Men. And they get, minus Cyclops because he's his own book, and probably, if rumors are true, minus Jean Grey. And we get a distress call from a newly discovered mutant that is discovering her powers, and we're not quite sure what her powers are. And so the time displaced mutants decide that they're going to go and help him out, and in classic X-Men fashion, hilarity ensues. Well, her powers are TARDIS-y is the best way to describe it, and not because before doing the podcast, I watched Doctor Who. But she sends at least Bobby and Jean Grey. Well, Bobby she sends down to the Mole Man. I don't know if it was the Mole Man of the current of the 616 universe. Haha, show title. or of the Ultimates universe, but we do know she sent Jean Grey to basically right into the Ultimates universe because Jean Grey's freaking out because she's in New York City, goes up on top of a building, and surprise, surprise, who does she meet? But someone else that Brian Michael Bendis writes for. Why, it's Miles Morales. It's all circular because we just talked about him.
That's right. Oh, because there was the cover, I think, that was announced a while ago that Miles Morales was going to be in one of the X-Men books, and so, yeah, weird.
Yeah, so that's coming up here soon. I don't know. It's probably going to be the next issue, but I don't know what, because it was only them two. You don't see Angel or Laura or Hank where they're displaced, if it's like they're all there too, or like anything like that. Angel and Laura are now a couple, which that was actually pretty cool because the last issue was them basically being all couple stuff, and that's actually a pretty sweet romance. Like, I like how Brian Michael Bendis is writing this, because Angel's being this nice gentleman about it, and Laura's just like, now be nice, because if you're not, remember, I have claws in my feet. Like, it's literally like threatening him with the Foot Claw sort of deal, which could get very kinky if they get passionate.
I just want to. Wasn't there a cover very early in this series when they were going to start focusing on the young version of these characters that had X-23 kissing Cyclops on the cover?
That was like a flash in a pan.
Yeah.
It was right after Avengers Arena. It was the introduction of X-23 into all new X-Men. It was more like Rebound than anything else. But then when she got acclimated in all this, it was more like, I don't know if it's just her being loosey-goosey, free-spirited, but I think it's more her. She feels more comfortable with Warren than with anyone else, to be honest. That, and Scott was like, "Daddy!" and
yeah, and that's the thing, is that I wonder if it was a potential storyline that got sidetracked because of the fact that they decided they were going to give Scott his own book. Because when you consider the implication, Cyclops hooking up with what was essentially the female version of Wolverine. I mean, I'm sure the Slash world would go crazy for that. Because they've always had this competition between the two of them on so many things, but not least of which is how they both feel about Jean Grey. But let's just get Jean out of the equation. You know, that cover, oh, if that had panned out, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, this is, I've been in love with this book for a long time. And I think we've talked about this before, about the X-Men books with me for a while. So this is, for me, this is still a sub. Only for like this, I could see the storyline definitely being interesting. I still would like to see Miles Morales in the main continuity, just because I sort of want to see them blow up the Ultimates universe, because it's convoluted. It could be confusing for people.
Well, it's also not doing well at all, because the other two Ultimate books have both been announced to be being canceled.
Oh, the Ultimates is going to be canceled too?
That has been announced this week,
yeah.
that the Ultimates is now on its final legs. So Miles is the only book in that universe anymore.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like you pull Miles over, pull him over into the main universe. I mean,
Although
Dad's gone.
if we go back to the beginning, the Ultimate Universe started with just the Ultimate Spider-Man book, and
Yeah.
if that was the only book that existed in the Ultimate Universe, that might make it stronger.
Yeah.
Because you could explore the universe with this character, but not have to try to run all these other books that aren't as well done. And it may be better. It may be better overall to do that.
No, true. And then my second review, which was supposed to be my first review in the first place, is a book you read as well. And this is called Wayward, the first issue from Image Comics, written by Jim Zub, with line art by Steve Cummings and colors by John Rausch, and Jim Zub also did the colors as well. And I'm going to read the tag art from the Image website, and it says, Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a new generation. Rory Lane is trying to start a new life when she reunites with her mother in Japan, but ancient creatures lurk in the shadows of Tokyo. Since something hidden deep within her, threatening everything she holds dear. Can Rory unlock the secrets of her powers before it's too late? Jim Zub, Skullkickers and Samurai Jack. Steve Cummings, Legends of the Dark Knight, Deadshot, and John Rausch. Rausch? Is that how you say it, Rausch?
I would guess Rausch, but I don't know.
Yeah. Invincible team up to create an all-new Image supernatural spectacular that combines the camaraderie and emotion of Buffy the Vampire Slayer with the action and mystery of Hellboy. Don't miss it.
And we didn't.
And we didn't. And I added in here that I can see similarities in this detective mode thing. There's two frames of this. And
yeah,
I compare this to
Rory's
Batman
power
Arkham
so
Asylum.
far.
Yeah.
Just to back it up, Rory is moved to Japan. She's kind of like displaced. I guess she's Irish, from what I was trying to pick up from some of the storylines.
Irish and Japanese.
Right. And she's moving in with her mother in a new place, but she's starting to develop some weird abilities as she's going through. Right after she gets off the plane, she kind of discovers this weird moment where she senses where she needs to go to find her mom's place, because her mom wasn't able to pick her up at the airport. And you're right, it is kind of like in the Arkham Asylum games where Batman goes into detective mode and you can kind of see things that kind of lead you around. And so she's seeing patterns on the ground and stuff that are kind of pointing her in the direction of where to go.
And I will say this, I hope Rory's a cat person.
Yes.
Because of all the cats that just start following her. If she's a dog person, nah.
Well, if she's a dog person, then we probably won't see her on the internet, because you have to be a cat person to exist online. Yeah, so...
I'm a dog person. You see my dog pop up
You are
behind me.
shunned, sir. Shun the non-believer. No, it's all good. Yeah, so the using the Japanese culture, they're introducing different kinds of creatures. We get turtle creatures in this, which I thought was kind of interesting, and somehow seemed more connected to the turtles in comics that I recognized than the latest movie. Maybe it's a lack of nostrils. I don't know.
I didn't even think of that. I'm so showing this to Jane on Thursday.
And then she winds up meeting a character who is obviously got connections to feline traits and stuff. So it's hard to say too much about the book. We're as lost as she is almost.
Yeah.
But it definitely, I can see that there is somewhat of a Buffy feel. But for me, what makes Buffy is the Scooby Gang aspect. It's the team. It's Willow and it's Xander and Giles, and then the extensions with Oz or Anya and all the other characters and stuff. But at the very least, the premise, kind of introducing this girl who has some sort of abilities and into the strange world where monsters exist, that kind of thing, and where they apparently are getting braver, they imply in the story, is pretty cool. It's very compelling. The artwork is great. I think it's well distinguished for the kind of book that it's trying to be. It seems evocative to some of the better Buffy art that I've seen in those comics, so that's good. And it's got that Japanese J-pop kind of styling to how the characters dress and stuff too. I was pretty impressed with it, and I like Jim Zub anyway, so I expected to at least enjoy the writing. But yeah, I think I'll stick around on this.
Yeah, I put a note in here that if you're watching this, first off, hi, how you doing? But if you're going into this thinking it's going to be like Skull Kickers, no, it's not. They're two separate stories. You're not gonna find a bald dude. You're not gonna find a dwarf.
Well, that's a nice thing about Zub though too, is that I don't think he hasn't hit that point where he's pigeonholed himself. At most, Skull Kickers.
Yeah.
You could say that if you enjoy Skull Kickers, you may enjoy his work on the Pathfinder comics, and he's got a D&D comic coming up. But that's a long time coming. He's done enough other stuff that I don't think you've ever looked at it and like, oh, he can only do this kind of book. And that's good.
And it's not even in that style where like you see them jumping and or fighting, and you don't see them go like in the action sequence where they're like kick.
Oh right,
and
yeah.
They're like it's not even that. But it's really great. The art style is really good. So I do say that I do think they're like look at Steve Cummings' past art or Jim Roush's past art, to where like and compare there. So it's like if you've seen their art, you'll probably like this for the art as well. And even Samurai Jack. I mean Samurai Jack, the comic book from IDW.
Right.
Yeah, IDW would probably be a good comparison. Even though there's not really a lot speech pattern wise writing, but still, you know.
Well, that's a licensed comic, so it's kind of like he can take somebody else's property and make it feel like that property still, and that's impressive in and of itself. Which is also like the Buffy comics. When you read the Buffy comics and the characters look like the actors from the TV show enough that you don't feel like you're losing track of who they are, and the voice patterns, the stuff, you get the tics that are supposed to kind of be there. That makes it more comfortable. But this being his own property and they get to make it feel like however they want to. Certainly, I'm looking forward to the artistry on the different creatures and seeing how they all kind of vary and how they're going to appear. That is probably going to be more compelling. And that was always cool about Buffy the series too, was that they would introduce these really cool demons and stuff, building a mythology. That's very cool, and that I think is probably what he means when you get the comparisons between the two.
Yeah.
So
definitely. These are my two reviews. I give this a sub or a zub.
You know, you hit me with that before the show started, and I thought, no, he's not really going to do that on the air. But I was on the air, so I can't really say anything about it.
Yeah. For me personally, I give it a zub. But if you're new to Jim Zub, I might or of this type of work, and you're flipping through at the comic book store, and you're not quite sure, it might be, I don't know, check it out. Check it out is what I would say.
I would say check it out, and then if you're still unsure after the first issue, maybe come back when the trade hits. But being a new book, you always want to see the book succeed on its own to earn the trade, so that by the time the trade comes out, it's not canceled. I especially because of Zub as a creator overall, I would be inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt that the book is going to be impressive going on anyways. But I enjoyed the issue. I think that there's a story there that if you're a fan of this kind of stuff, you're going to want to keep reading it. It's not like somebody came by and said, we're going to make Japanese stylized characters and stuff, and then they do a really lousy job. No, this is a really good product. It just has to be the kind of story that you're into.
No, yeah, definitely. Other quick mentions that I would just say, Cyclops was really good. I thought they were going to spend more time on the island before they found a way off, but it was one issue. Before they at least figured out how they were going to get off, they still might spend more time on there, but yeah. Batman Eternal, like I mentioned earlier, Hush came. Hush, they announced Hush in there. I mentioned last week that that issue 20 they sort of did to where I wouldn't be surprised if they announced a trade paperback of the first, or a trade of the first 20 issues, especially in 21 sort of confirmed it, because 21 sort of seemed like a beginning for like volume 2.
Okay.
But yeah, I haven't read Future's End yet. It's good, but it's just like because since we've been doing like on one off, I've been like trying to pick like, ooh, what do I read? What do I read? Saga was good. I really enjoyed Saga this week.
Saga's in a dark place, and it makes it harder to read. And
yes.
And I don't want to imply that the book's not still good. I just don't know that I'm loving the storyline, but I felt like that with the beginning of the storyline, the second story arc for Sex Criminals too. And maybe it's just you come from such a high place that you hit those divots, and I feel like I'm divoting, but I'm not giving up. I just, man,
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yep. But so in case you're wondering why aren't we talking about Saga? Saga's probably going to be one of those books where we will talk about as a whole, not just in single volumes.
Yeah, by the time we get to our next breaking point,
yeah,
it will be the matter of, oh, this is the time when I don't feel bad that there's a 2-month in between. We'll see.
And then probably a little preview for next time, which we'll announce it on the Facebook and Twitters. I may have read Crisis on Infinite Earth.
That would be nice.
Yes.
I also want to mention I read SIP Kids, which is Strangers in Paradise, and it's sort of a Peanuts-style take on the classic comic by Terry Moore. It's actually in color, too, which is always funny to see Strangers in Paradise characters in color, since there was such a big thing about that in the 90s. But very cute, very lighthearted, but is for the fan. If you are a fan of Strangers in Paradise and you just want to get a little bit of a hint of what Terry feels is like the prime beginnings of these characters and stuff, which is not in continuity. It's just a silly little book, but he always had that kind of I want to do a comic strip anyways feel. It's fun. It's definitely worth a read. If you have never read Strangers in Paradise, you are totally missing out on one of the greatest comics experiences of all time. From beginning to end, it is just an emotional, fantastic, beautifully illustrated, just incredibly written story that I need to go back and reread at this point, because I was reading as it was coming out, and we're talking about years and years of just waiting every month for that next issue to hit, and it's hard to even fathom going back and rereading all that stuff and being able to get through it quickly, because it gets torturous towards the end when you know the end is coming. It's a book that you don't want to see end, but you know it's got to finish, and it finishes off really well. So if you haven't, check it out. But Greg,
yeah,
that would be a really big thing to take on this week. I'm still gonna push you on Crisis.
Yeah. No, yeah. Three other really quick mentions. Avengers Undercover, the penultimate issue of Avengers Undercover. Really action-packed, really good. Bob's Burgers #1. And Inhumans #4. They got a new artist, and I'm so glad to see that they got a new artist. Not that the other dude sucked as an artist, just he took freaking forever. I mean...
Joe Mad, taking a long time? Never heard of
that. Yeah, I mean, you take a long time for Saga, but you stay on a schedule, then Joe Mad's, where it's like, oh, I'll release it randomly, like, taking like a year... And we've gotten 3 issues.
Remember though that, and I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat for Joe Mad, but remember that this book had issues before it hit the stands, anyways, because the writer left the series before the first issue came out, and it switched hands to Charles Soule from that. It was supposed to be Fraction who was writing originally, and I think a lot of the artwork was done at that point, or probably at least some of it was done. And so there had to be changes made and stuff. So I'm not going to put it all on Joe's plate at this point, but no one expected this book was going to come out in a timely manner anyway. And unfortunately, it didn't do anything to prove us wrong. So.
No, it's true. But I'm saying right now that Charles Soule is doing... Charles Soule and the guy who's doing who did the art for Superior Spider-Man is the new ongoing artist. So hey, win in my book. Because I love that. But yeah, so I guess I shall wrap it up since we have nothing else. Since we've been going, I think a little over. We went a little too long on the news.
We shoved a lot in.
Yeah, we shoved a lot in there.
We're the calzone of podcasts.
Yes. You can follow us on Facebook as sorry, Ron Burgundy. I read what's on the teleprompter. You can follow us on Facebook under ElseNerds Shows, or you can follow us on our Twitter at ElseNerds. Or you can email us at mail@elsenerds.com with any of your thoughts or suggestions for things we could talk about in future episodes. You can also we also have a sister show, What Else Is On, that we record every Monday night at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. That we talk about TV shows, movies, and give you our second dose of general nonsense.
Now, Monday is a holiday. Are we actually going to be doing the show on Monday?
Are you game to do it?
I am totally game to do it. I just wanted to verify.
Yeah, I got nothing I'm doing, so might as well. So yeah, we will be here for Labor Day, folks. Because why not labor on a Labor Day? Is it Labor Day? Yeah.
You're acting like this is work.
Yeah, Labor Day.
You obviously put so much into this.
Yeah, I do. You're talking about this. Like the first thing I do is do the movie draft and then the starts and stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do work.
I do work, son. And so thank you for checking out the 616. We know you've had many choices when you fandom, and we appreciate you nerding out with us. Have a great week, and remember to support your local comic book shop.
Thank you,
I need to put more emphasis in that, like, you know, how Will Wheaton does, play more games. Support your local comic book shop.
You should support your local comic book shop. And read Crisis.
Yeah, you should. And read Crisis on Infinite Earth. I should.